The blade pressed against Marcus Cole's throat before the translation matrix could finish processing the accusation. 3 Velthari soldiers held him on his knees in the obsidian throne room, their scaled hands burning hot against his human skin. The delegation from Earth, all 12 diplomats, stood frozen near the towering doors, their faces pale with the realization that first contact had just become first execution. The human vessel crossed into sacred space, High Commander Zorath declared, his voice echoing off walls carved from a single asteroid. By the laws of the Velthari Dominion, blood must answer for blood. We demand a hostage, a permanent prisoner to serve as guarantee against future violations. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, hands raised. High Commander, this was a navigational error. Our star charts are incomplete. Surely, silence. Zorath's crest flared crimson. Your species has been in this quadrant for less than a cycle. You have no voice here. The human who piloted the vessel will be taken. His life belongs to the Dominion now. Marcus felt the blade bite deeper. He was nobody, a cargo pilot from New Detroit, drafted into diplomatic service because he could navigate the unstable jump points near Velthari space. He had no family left after the colony collapse on Meridian 7. No one would miss him. Perhaps that made this easier. I accept, he said quietly. The words drew gasps from the human delegation. Ambassador Chen's face contorted with horror. Cole, no, we can negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Marcus kept his voice steady, though his heart hammered against his ribs. I made the mistake. I pay for it. Zorath's lipless mouth curved into something like satisfaction. The human shows more honor than expected. Take him to the prisoner holds. He will be processed for... Stop. The single word fell like a hammer. Every Velthari in the room dropped to one knee instantaneously, including Zorath, including the soldiers holding Marcus. The blade withdrew from his throat. Marcus looked up. She descended from a balcony he hadn't noticed, moving down steps that seemed to materialize from shadow itself. The Empress of the Velthari Dominion, he recognized her from the briefing hollows, though they had failed to capture the reality of her presence. Tall, imperious, her scales shifting between deep violet and silver with each movement. Her eyes were pools of liquid gold, and they fixed on him with an intensity that made him forget how to breathe. Your eternal radiance, Zorath said without rising. The matter is concluded. The human has accepted. The matter is not concluded until I declare it so. The Empress reached the throne room floor. Her voice carried effortlessly, melodic yet edged with steel. I have observed this proceeding. I have weighed the evidence. She stopped 3 feet from Marcus, still kneeling on the cold stone. For a long moment she simply studied him. His torn flight suit, his scarred hands, the defiance that still lingered in his eyes despite his surrender. You would go willingly into our prisons, she said, knowing you would never see your home world again, knowing you would die among strangers who despise your kind. Yes, why? Marcus met her golden gaze. Because someone has to. And I have less to lose than most. Something flickered across her features, too fast to read. She turned to face Zorath and the assembled court. The Dominion demands a hostage of value, she announced. This human pilot holds no rank, no authority, no leverage. His imprisonment serves no strategic purpose. It satisfies only cruelty. Zorath's crest pulsed with suppressed fury. Your radiance, the law is clear. The law serves the Dominion. The Dominion does not serve the law. The Empress raised her chin. If a hostage of value is required, then take me instead. Silence crashed through the throne room like a physical force. Marcus felt the world tilt. The human diplomats exchanged bewildered glances. The Velthari soldiers looked to Zorath, who had gone completely still, his scales draining of color. Your radiance, he whispered. You cannot. I am the Empress. I can do whatever I choose. She turned back to the human delegation. I will accompany your species as a guest, a guarantee of peace between our peoples. In exchange, the pilot goes free, and the matter of the sacred space violation is considered resolved. Ambassador Chen found her voice. Empress, this is unprecedented. We have no facilities for someone of your... Then you will adapt. The Empress's gaze swept across her own court, lingering on faces Marcus couldn't read. The Dominion has survived 3,000 cycles of isolation. Perhaps it is time we learn to do more than survive. She looked at Marcus one final time. Her expression remained unreadable, but something in those golden eyes made his chest ache with an emotion he couldn't name. Stand, human, she said quietly. You knelt long enough for one day. Voyage to Earth took 11 standard days. Marcus spent most of it avoiding the Empress, which proved surprisingly easy. The diplomatic cruiser was large, and she had been given quarters in the restricted section with a rotating guard of increasingly nervous Earth security personnel. But he thought about her constantly. The way she had looked at him in that throne room. The absolute silence that had followed her declaration. The barely concealed rage on Zorath's face as the Empress was escorted aboard the human vessel. None of it made sense. On the 7th day she summoned him. Marcus stood outside her quarters, heart pounding, while the security detail exchanged uncertain glances. She asked for you specifically, Lieutenant Park said. We can deny the request, but Ambassador Chen thinks I'll go. Marcus straightened his borrowed civilian clothes. They'd taken his flight suit for analysis. What's she going to do? She just gave up her throne for me. I can handle a conversation. The door slid open. The Empress sat by a viewport, her scales luminous in the starlight. She didn't rise when he entered, but her eyes tracked him with that same unsettling intensity. Close the door, she said. He did. The security detail protested, but the door sealed anyway. Sit. Marcus lowered himself into the chair across from her. The silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. You have been avoiding me, she said finally. With respect, Empress, I don't know what to say to you. You could start with your name. He blinked. You don't know my name? I know your designation. Pilot Cole, cargo class, formerly assigned to the Colonial Transport Meridian Hope. Her voice softened almost imperceptibly. But I do not know what you are called by those who care for you. Marcus. His throat tightened. And there's no one left who cares for me, so it doesn't matter much what I'm called. The Empress studied him. Meridian 7, the colony that failed. The colony that was abandoned. The old bitterness rose before he could stop it. The core worlds decided it wasn't cost-effective to send rescue ships. 300,000 people died while Earth argued about budget allocations. You survived, barely. He looked away toward the stars. My wife didn't. My daughter didn't. I was off-world when the Cascade failure hit, running supplies to a station that didn't need them. By the time I got back. He trailed off. So yeah. I have less to lose than most. That's not nobility. That's just mathematics. When he finally looked back at the Empress, her expression had changed. The regal mask had cracked, just slightly, revealing something raw underneath. My consort died 11 cycles ago, she said quietly. Assassinated by a faction who believed the Velthari should never ally with lesser species. My council advised me to take another mate immediately, to secure the succession. I refused. Her hands clasped in her lap. They have been trying to force me into political unions ever since. Zorth is one of the most persistent. He hoped this incident would weaken my position enough to finally bend me to their will. Marcus processed this slowly. So your offer was not entirely altruistic, no. A ghost of a smile crossed her features. But it was not entirely political either. I watched you kneel there, accepting death for a mistake that could have been forgiven with a simple fine. I watched your own people stand frozen, calculating costs and benefits rather than defending you. And I thought, this one knows what it is to be expendable. Takes one to know one, perhaps. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me, Marcus Cole, do you think I made the right decision? He considered the question seriously. I think you traded a prison for a cage. Earth will treat you well, but they'll never let you go. You're too valuable. And back home, whoever wanted you gone is probably celebrating. All true. The Empress, and he realized he didn't even know her name, rose from her chair and moved to the viewport. But I am not done yet. The Velthari have spent millennia believing we are superior to all other species. That isolation will destroy us eventually. If my sacrifice opens even a small door between our peoples, then perhaps my daughter will inherit something other than a dying empire. You have a daughter, Seleth. She remains on Velthar Prime with my sister. Her voice carried weight now, heavy with emotion. I do not know if I will see her again. Marcus stood. He didn't know why, only that sitting felt wrong when she was carrying that much pain. For what it's worth, he said, I think you're the first leader I've ever met who actually deserves the title. The Empress turned. In the starlight her scales shimmered like captured galaxies. My name, she said softly, is Kaelindra. Among my people, sharing a true name is, but, significant. It implies trust. Kaelindra. He tested the syllables carefully. It's beautiful. It means light that endures. Her golden eyes held his. I am beginning to think it was prophetic. Earth welcomed the Empress with fanfare that bordered on hysteria. Every news outlet in the solar system carried the story. Protests erupted, some demanding she be sent home, others demanding she be kept forever. Politicians scrambled to take credit or assign blame. Through it all, Marcus stayed in the background. He had no official role, but somehow he kept ending up assigned to whatever team was managing Kaelindra's affairs. Ambassador Chen muttered about optics. Lieutenant Park joked about romance. Marcus ignored both. But he couldn't ignore the way Kaelindra sought him out. Small moments at first. A question about human customs before a state dinner. A request to explain the appeal of coffee. A late-night conversation about loss that left them both raw and shaking. 3 months after her arrival, the first assassination attempt came. Marcus was walking her through the botanical gardens. Her favorite place, she said, because the flowers didn't care about politics, when the sniper's shot cracked through the air. He tackled her without thinking, covering her body with his as security swarmed and the garden erupted into chaos. In the aftermath, Trembling in a secure room while medics checked them for injuries, Kaelindra gripped his hand and wouldn't let go. "You could have died," she whispered. "So could you." His thumb traced circles on her scaled knuckles, an instinctive gesture he didn't examine too closely. "That matters more. Why?" Her voice cracked. "I am a stranger to your people. A burden. A political complication. You're not a burden. You're—" He stopped, searching for words that wouldn't terrify them both. "You're the only person who sees me as something other than a casualty report. That matters to me." Kaelindra's other hand came up, touching his face with trembling fingers. Her scales were warm, smoother than he'd expected, and something in his chest broke open at the contact. "Marcus." His name on her lips sounded like a prayer. "I do not understand what is happening between us. Neither do I." He turned his head, pressing a kiss to her palm. "But I don't want it to stop." The investigation traced the sniper to Velthari extremists working with human isolationist factions. Zorath's name appeared in encrypted communications. The diplomatic crisis that followed nearly collapsed the fragile peace. And then the ultimatum came. The Velthari High Council demanded Kaelindra's return. They claimed her continued presence on Earth violated 17 separate treaties. They threatened sanctions, blockades, even military action. The younger Empress, they said, was needed to stabilize the succession. Earth's unified government convened emergency sessions. The debate raged for days. On the fifth night, Marcus found Kaelindra on the roof garden of the diplomatic complex, staring at the alien stars that had once been her home. "They're going to send me back," she said without turning. "I can see it in their faces. I have become too expensive to keep. They're still debating. They are performing." Her voice was hollow. The decision was made the moment Zorath mentioned the blockade. Humans need Velthari trade routes. "I am not worth a war." Marcus moved to stand beside her. "What happens if you go back? I will be stripped of my title. Placed under house arrest. Married to whoever the council selects." Her hands gripped the railing. "And you will never be allowed to contact me again. Zorath will make certain of that. I won't let that happen. You cannot stop it." She finally looked at him, and the despair in her eyes nearly broke him. "This is how it ends, Marcus. I tried to change things, and I failed." He took her face in his hands, gently, reverently, the way he'd wanted to for months. "No," he said. "No, this is not how it ends. I spent 2 years thinking I had nothing left to fight for. Then you walked down those stairs and threw away everything you had to save a stranger." His forehead pressed against hers. "You think I'm going to let them take you after that? You think I'm going to just let you disappear? What can you do? You are one man. I'm one man who has nothing left to lose." He pulled back enough to look at her properly. "I already lost everything once. I won't survive it again. So we find a way. Together. I don't care if it takes the rest of my life." Kaelindra's breath caught. Her hands came up to cover his. "Among my people," she whispered. "Such a declaration is, but not. It is a bonding vow. You would be promising yourself to me. Completely. Permanently. Good." He kissed her forehead, her scaled brow, the corner of her eye. "Then I mean it." Marcus Cole did not address the General Assembly. He was not allowed to speak, not permitted to plead, not given any official channel to change the inevitable. So he found an unofficial one. The story broke across every network simultaneously. A human pilot's testimony, corroborated by Velthari dissidents who had defected to Earth. Evidence of Zorath's conspiracy, not just the assassination attempt, but decades of manipulation, assassinations, forced marriages, and systematic destruction of anyone who threatened the isolationist faction's power. The evidence of Kaelindra's consort's murder. Within hours, the Velthari High Council fractured. 3 factions that had supported Zorath switched allegiance. 2 demanded his arrest. 1 called for Kaelindra's immediate reinstatement. And across the diplomatic frequencies, a single voice cut through the chaos. Princess Seleth, barely past majority, speaking from the steps of the Imperial Palace. "The people of Velthar do not demand our Empress's return as a prisoner," she declared, her young voice carrying her mother's steel. "We demand she return as our sovereign. With honor. With the human who proved his worth by standing beside her when our own court failed." The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Kaelindra would return, but as Empress with full authority restored. Zorath and his conspirators would face the Emperor's justice. And for the first time in Velthari history, a human would be granted diplomatic status on the homeworld. Not as a hostage, as a consort. The night before their departure, Marcus and Kaelindra stood together on the roof garden one last time. Earth's moon hung fat and silver above them, and the lights of 1,000 cities glittered below. "I thought I understood humans," Kaelindra said quietly. "I studied your species for cycles. I believed I knew your nature, aggressive, short-sighted, brilliant in brief bursts, but incapable of sustained greatness. Sounds about right, honestly." She turned to face him, and her golden eyes shimmered with something luminous. "I was wrong." Her hand found his. "Thought I was saving you that day in the throne room. I thought I was making a grand gesture to shame my court and protect an innocent. I did not expect. She faltered. Didn't expect what? To be saved in return. She stepped closer, her scales catching moonlight like scattered jewels. You showed me that strength does not require dominance. That protection does not require possession. That love. She stopped, the word hanging between them. Love? Marcus's voice was hoarse. Is that not what this is? Her fingers traced his jaw. I have ruled an empire. I have commanded fleets. I have negotiated treaties that reshaped star systems. None of it frightened me the way this frightens me. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, feeling the warm thrum of her heartbeat against his chest. I'm terrified too, he admitted. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. She laughed, a sound he'd only heard twice before, both times in private moments she trusted him with. My council will be scandalized, she murmured against his shoulder. A human consort. They will write treaties trying to contain the implications. Let them. He kissed the top of her head. I'm used to being underestimated. You should not be. She pulled back just enough to look at him. You crossed the stars, Marcus Cole. You knelt before an enemy court and accepted death. You stood in the path of assassins. You tore down a conspiracy that had festered for decades. And you did it all for a stranger who demanded you be taken hostage. Not a stranger. He cupped her face. Not anymore. When she kissed him, it was slow and deliberate. A promise rather than a passion. Her scales were warm against his skin, her lips softer than he'd imagined, and the universe seemed to contract until it contained only the two of them. When they finally pulled apart, she was smiling. Take me instead, she said, echoing her own words from what felt like a lifetime ago. I meant it differently then. As a sacrifice. A statement. And now? Kaelindra pressed her forehead to his, a Volthari gesture of ultimate intimacy he'd learned. Now, it is a request. Take me instead of isolation. Instead of duty without joy. Instead of a life spent wondering what might have been. Marcus Cole, cargo pilot, colony survivor. The man who had nothing left to lose smiled. Always, he said. And together they went home.